All right, and this brings us to our discussion this evening on Marty's Finance Bill, specifically touching on the eco-levy. The eco-levy. And I'm joined by Veronica Ndegwa, who's a senior research analyst, Marty's Revenue Policy at the Institute of Public Finance. Welcome to this discussion, Veronica.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You know, you come from Marty's Revenue Policy. And when we look at the Finance Bill 2024, is a government that is in pursuit of revenue and definitely takes resources to make government work. Maybe to lay the foundation of these discussions, when it comes to raising revenue by the government, are there certain principles that are sort of direct and dictate how you approach revenue raising that is not punitive or sort of sidelining? For example, what you've seen with just that particular story on matters disabled, people living with disability, also feeling, excluded in some way. Are there those principles that underlie how we can approach revenue raising as a country?
Certainly there are principles that guide revenue generation, and the government in the national tax policy starts by listing them. I'll mention a few, and I'll start with equity in taxation. The Constitution states that the burden of taxation should be shared equally. So it means nobody should feel that they are bearing a higher burden of taxation than the other. The other one is simplicity. Simplicity means that it is easy for the government to collect revenue, and it's also easy for the taxpayers to comply. So then that means that the tax laws must be easy to read and interpret so that the compliance is easy on the side of the taxpayers. That principle that I would like to highlight that we have gotten wrong over the years is predictability. And the reason I would highlight that is because year in, year out, we see the government reviewing the tax laws through the annual finance bills, and in other cases through the tax amendments bills. And what this does is that it creates an unpredictable environment. A taxpayer is not sure, especially the people in the private sector. They are never sure what their tax liability will be.
Okay.
That means they are not able even to plan the investments over a longer term.
Definitely. And in the world that we live right now, everyone is on a quest to a cleaner world, a cleaner environment. We are planting lots of trees. Everything is about sustainability and taking care of the environment. And I see the government say, okay, to sort of support this pursuit of cleaning our ecosystem, then we should introduce an eco-levy. First of all, principally, because these are, a levy that is targeting manufacturers and particular products to discourage their consumption, and that resources also to go in the cleanup sector of that, amongst other issues. Fundamentally, isn't that a right approach by the government? Don't they have a right to pursue that route?
I would say yes and no. The eco-levy was first mentioned in the medium-term revenue strategy that the government released towards the end of last year. And the idea of the MTRS was to guide tax policy over the medium term. And so the eco-levy was mentioned, but we weren't sure the form it would take. So it has come as an eco-levy targeting electronics, plastics, as well as non-biodegradable items like diapers. The goal, the presumed goal, which is not put in the finance bill, is that the revenue collected from the levy will go to supporting environmental sustainability initiatives. But then again, because we do not have regulations, like it is the case with other levies, we cannot be sure that this amount will be actually be taken to fund such activities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is, it's almost similar with the housing situation that we had. We are raising, you're taking money from us. We don't know accountability around this money. So it sort of just sinks in treasury and that's it. But eco-levy. There are quite a number of propositions that if it goes through, then it will have interesting ramifications to different sectors. I was just looking at the list of areas that will be touched by eco-levy, and it's long. Trust you me, it's long, including the broadcast sector. Maybe we start with the manufacturing sector, because part of the proposition is that they want to impose 150 shillings per kilogram on plastic packaging material. Now, we see this, we consume product, we buy products that are packaged in plastic. If at all this is to go through, what will be the impact?
Okay, let me start by highlighting the goal. The goal is to make importers and manufacturers pay for the environmental impacts of the products they bring into the Kenyan market. So in a way, it's supposed to make importers and manufacturers pay for pollution from electronics and plastics. But specifically for plastics, and we have seen the manufacturers raise concerns over that, the proposed levy is 150 shillings per kg of plastic. And looking at every product, most of the products displayed in our supermarkets are usually in some form of plastic packaging. So the cost of manufacturing will definitely go up because of the packaging cost going higher. In the short run, this may impact the manufacturing sector negatively in terms of cash flows, because they'll have to spend more in acquiring these packaging materials. But then as we adjust to the new provisions, we are likely to see this additional cost passed to the consumer. Okay. So if you are paying, for example, 10 shillings for a bottle of water, you might be expected to pay an extra 2 shillings for the same bottle of water to pay for that packaging. So it's not only on the manufacturers, the cost extends to the final consumers.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, my industry, I work in broadcast here, and transmission apparatus for radio broadcasting and television is also included there. High-speed television cameras, digital cameras, and video camera recorders also impacted. So essentially, people in the audio visual industry will be touched by this. This seems to also touch a lot of industry other than the creatives, as we talk about it. Enunciate for me.
Yes, it actually will extend to every other electronic, and an interesting item in that list was even a stapler. I don't know what kind of a stapler, and even some sort of handheld calculating devices. I would think it's the same calculators used in high schools. And when I was in high school, a calculator costed 1,000 shillings. And right now they have proposed 225 shillings levy on a calculator. That means the cost of a calculator will increase by close to 20%. So it means that every other item that is consumed even in our education institutions will increase. And I would also like to highlight the impact on the creatives. One of the key priority sectors is the creative economy and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So smartphones are affected by the levy, cameras are affected by the levy. But then on the other side, the government is pushing the narrative that it's supporting the creative economy. So in that sense, we see a misalignment in policy. On one side, you say you're supporting, and then on the other side, you go ahead to impose levies on the same industry. Yes.
And even as we wind up, the issue of diapers came up.
Yes.
And I believe as adults, we are former children, and also there are adult diapers.
Yes.
These are essential products. By them targeting that particular area, what impact is that having in regards to cost of living, even as we finish?
That additional cost on diapers will actually affect mostly women who are mostly the caregivers, both for children and maybe people who need assistance, even if they are adults. So this cost is likely to impact them negatively. And at a time where we are pushing the narrative of reducing the unpaid care work for women. So for me, if I'm forced to use the clothes, diapers, it means I'll be taking more time taking care of that person who needs additional care. So meaning I will not have enough time for these other productive activities. So we are likely to see women bear a higher burden if that levy goes through.
So Veronica, you want eco-levy to be done with, like get rid out of it from the Finance Bill 2024, or is there a sweet spot where the public gains and also the government, at least they're able to raise some revenue?
I would like to refer you to the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022 that set out the extended producer responsibility. And in line with the act, producers are supposed to bear the cost of waste generated from their products. Currently, the Ministry of Environment and NEMA were supposed to do some regulations that are yet to come out. But from some reports, we have seen producers are already paying some fees to what we call producer responsibility organization, like the PAC Pro. In this case, producers pay some levies to these companies, then the amount collected is extended to waste collectors and waste recyclers. So in a way, there's already a framework, and if the levy goes through, there will be sort of duplication between the two. So the recommendation would make is for the government to speak to the private sector to align its policies and decide on whether they go through the NEMA regulations on extended producer responsibility or retain the eco levy and ring fence it for waste management initiatives.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Veronica Ndegwa is a senior research analyst.